Is this that JPP podcast?
Which college football program is worth the most? Is Dana White a genius or an evil genius? The guys get into college football, the NFL, UFC, a new money-making idea, and a few unique stories from human history. All that and more this week on Just Press Play.
Pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way, because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So, the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
All right, welcome back to another week of the Just Press Play podcast, brought to you by MyBookie. What's up, guys?
Not much. What's going on?
You know,
Man, just
living life.
it's been a pretty good. I've been battling the elements a little bit over the weekend. Been kind of sick, but basically all that's done is just let me sit in the house and watch. It's actually been a really good sports weekend. I've kind of dug into the MLB playoffs a little bit. I've been watching some Yankees, Red Sox, and then the whole UFC madness. We might get in some of that chaos that happened afterward. I think LJ may have a thought or two. And then there's some good football on. I wanted to real quick, speaking of, we mentioned MyBookie off the top, which is our sponsor of the podcast. Shout out to the Hogs. I never thought that I would be pleased with a 34-point blowout loss, but I was after Arkansas lost to Alabama. So they scored with, I think it was 16 seconds left to make it a 34-point deficit instead of a 41-point, which gave us a backdoor cover. The spread was 35.5. And Arkansas saved me a little cash by getting that last touchdown in. And I just want to say that good teams win, but great teams cover the spread. So,
Okay.
Interestingly, though, I was watching. So I watched a lot of that game and then a lot of the OU Texas game. And it is scary seeing Tua Tagovailoa for Alabama because he just it seems like it's the first time, Alabama gets all these amazing recruits, and all of a sudden, for the first time ever, I think their best player might be playing the most important position on the field. And now you got this guy just slinging it to these five-star recruits. Yeah, I mean, these receivers are just getting these wide open balls down the field. An interesting stat I saw on Twitter was that Tua has thrown for 7 fewer touchdowns on the year. He's at 18 for the year. That is 7 fewer than incompletions that he has thrown on the season.
Wow.
He's only thrown 25 incompletions, and he's thrown 18 touchdowns. And
didn't he hasn't thrown a pass in the fourth quarter yet, right?
He hasn't played a snap in the fourth quarter. He hasn't played a single snap.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, you know what else is scary? Saying his last name. I can't say it, but
yeah. Real quick, Pops, why don't you say his last name for us?
Tiagaleva? I don't know, man.
Perfect. Yeah, Tiagaleva.
I don't know.
That's it.
I don't know.
Hey, speaking of crazy streaks that got broken, in the Giants game, the longest pass that traveled through the air.
Yeah.
Since week 5 of last season, Odell Beckham Jr. threw a pass that went 24 yards in the air, and that's the longest pass that has been completed since week 5.
The Giants scored 30 points, too.
Yeah.
For the first time in 2 seasons.
And beat.
They lost.
And they lost.
by Graham Gano kicking a 63-yard field goal as time expired.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So,
anyway, I want to get into a little NFL in a second. That is the best quarterback on the field for the Giants was Odell Beckham. It wasn't even
and that wasn't even a good throw, but it was still the best throw all day. So, hey, back to college football. I got a quandary, not a quandary, but I got a little bit of a problem from last week. How in the hell did you guys forget about Boise State OU's Fiesta Bowl?
Don't you guys me? I was there.
I know.
You're pointing the finger at Liff and Tone.
Yeah, for sure.
What? No, wait. Was that the one we were talking about, the Statue of Liberty and the
hook and ladder?
No, y'all said that y'all have never seen a hook and ladder before. The only hook and ladder you've seen was like when you were playing back in the 60s.
Was Eric and Sylvester. Yeah. Well, we did say that. Well, that was a while back. So what year was that? You
2008
said,
because it was my last year.
I thought it was 06 or 07.
2008. Okay.
And then
It was a hell of a game. It was a
yeah.
hell of a game.
Well, because there are two games. There are two football games that stand out to me as the greatest football games of my watching history, and it's that game and the UT USC Vince Young battled Reggie Bush and Lindell White.
The 06 Rose Bowl.
Intense game. So yeah, I couldn't believe you forgot that Boise State game.
Well, my bad. Now, to bring it to current times, the OU Texas game, I didn't get to watch it. It looks like it was among those great games.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either, but I heard real good things.
Well,
it looked like it was a good game.
First off, maybe Texas is back. I don't know. I wish I had the Joe Tessitore sound clip here. But it was almost fantastic because Texas was up by 21 in the fourth quarter. And the announcers not only are saying like Texas is now back, they were saying they're now the favorites in the Big 12 and they are contenders for the championship. And as they're saying this, all of a sudden, I just think it's why would you not wait? There was like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I know I would have bet a ton of money that Texas would have won and not let that get close. But we do, if you've watched any college football, Kyler Murray is the quarterback for OU. And that guy can score fast. And
they
Texas
can get away in a hurry, yeah.
Texas is still with a quarterback that could screw up a few times. So I just would, if I'm the announcer, I would not want to put my foot in my mouth. I would wait until the game's over and then proclaim them, whatever you want. But Kyler Murray comes back. He has a touchdown. He throws a long one. Then he runs one for like 75 or 80 yards and he takes off down the sideline. He is so fast. And it upsets me that we're not going to get to watch him much longer because he's going to go play baseball like we talked about last week. Why wouldn't you? But
yeah. I mean, I saw your post, Kevin. You wrote in your email. I really appreciated that we should start a GoFundMe to try to get him to play football. But then you think about it and guaranteed contracts and CTE. Yeah, no, Kyler, go do your thing.
Yeah, well, that's what we could start the GoFundMe. And if we reach up to a few million, then we can reach what his Oakland A's contract is. But then we also have to like find a way around the whole, like you could screw your brain up and stuff. So
yeah.
And then like we talked about guaranteed contracts in the MLB. I mean, just go. Yeah. I'll love you for this year. That game though, we should have known, LJ, that game would be good. Dad may not be aware of this, but I believe you are. That game had the Gus Johnson effect. Our boy Gus Johnson was calling the game. And anytime Gus Johnson's calling a game, it's just going to come down to the wire. And I want to let y'all hear the freshman kicker for Texas he was kicking the game winning. So OU did come back to tie it up 42-42. And with no time left, the Texas kicker comes on to kick it. And I just want to, he got his name from Gus Johnson. I'll just let y'all hear this. So Dicker the Kicker is now this kid's name.
Dicker the Kicker.
His last name, I forget what it was, Joseph Dicker or something. But yeah, he was Dicker the Kicker was trending all over Twitter because Gus Johnson just says whatever comes to his mind as soon as it does. I mean,
oh man,
I love it, Dicker the Kicker.
Well, I also don't understand. So right after he kicks it, it goes in. His first words were earthquake. And then he pauses and lets it breathe and then says Dicker the Kicker. I mean, it was just, there's just not much better than Gus Johnson on a Saturday night when the game gets going.
Hey, speaking of college football, I found something kind of interesting on the internet, and it was the 5 most valuable college football programs according to Forbes.
Intrigued. Okay.
Yeah, and I was intrigued, and some of them were obvious. The number one is not one I expected. So let me just start at number 5.
Should we take a couple guesses?
5, you want to take a guess after I've given you the top 4 or the?
Yeah, let's do that.
Wow. So you think you could give us the top 4?
Yeah.
And
if you're going to stump us after giving us everything under it.
Number 5 was the Ohio State University.
Okay.
With yearly revenue of $120 million, yearly profits of $69 million.
Wow.
Number 4 was Alabama.
Okay.
Might have thought they would have been higher.
Yeah.
They have yearly revenue of $127 million and profits of $59 million. Number 3, Michigan.
Not a huge surprise.
Revenues $127 million, profits of $75 million. Number 2, Texas.
Oh, dang.
Okay.
$133 million.
Oh, man.
$31 million of that is from licensings and royalties, but $133 million in revenues, $87 million in profits.
Jeez.
Okay, go ahead. Number 1. Who do you think it might be?
All right.
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first, though? What do you think?
I can take a guess real quick.
All right.
So my thought is LA has been without a football team for many years up until recently. So I'm thinking USC could be number 1 because they're a historically pretty good good team, and they're in a huge market without competitive NFL teams for the most of the last decade.
So that's your guess?
That's my guess, is USC.
Bah! That's not it.
I wish I had said we need a buzzer.
Well, I can put a buzzer in, but I kind of like Dad's.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so USC is a good guess. I kind of was thinking them too, maybe a West Coast, like they've kind of owned it, but they've been down for so long. Maybe that Henderson. I don't know. So the other thing that came to mind was I was thinking, all right, what are some other successful schools, big name schools? I kind of thought Florida State for a minute, but they couldn't pay their coach to keep them, so I don't think they're there. How about Notre Dame? Let me get Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
That's
a good guess.
So much money in buyouts.
Notre Dame would be a good guess, but that would be wrong. So I think I could give y'all several guesses. I really don't think you're going to get this.
See, I would have said Penn State had not, all of that gone down.
Right.
Let's see. I feel like
it's got to be an SEC school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking
how much money they spend in down south in football. And he's already said Ohio State, Notre Dame, and
it should be like
those
Vandy.
are all out.
Maybe.
It's not the Razorbacks, right? It's not the Razorbacks, right?
It's not Arkansas. No, it's not our beloved Razorbacks.
Let's see. I guess I'll throw out. I think either LSU or the Gators would probably be my next two guesses.
I think LSU would be a good guess, but no. It would be wrong.
I guess no on the Gators too.
All right, no on the Gators. Yeah,
Who was two?
Texas, University of Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas. Give me A&M.
No.
Texas A&M, number one. Yes.
Hey,
listen to this.
Actually, I totally buy that. I would have never guessed it, but I totally buy it.
Are you joking?
Yearly revenues of $148 million. That's 15 more than the University of Texas. Yearly profits of $107 million. That's 20 million more than number 2, University of Texas. Texas A&M. That shocked me.
Well,
that
I know
makes sense why they could pay Jimbo $75 million or whatever they did.
I mean,
no doubt.
I think. I've having been to 2 A&M games in College Station. It's wild. Like it's a different world of football. Like it's insanity.
Well, interestingly enough, in the thing I saw on the internet, they specifically talked about the $485 million expansion to Kyle Stadium, and that has repaid itself over and over. I guess because they fill it up every single time.
Week. Yeah.
And Texas A&M has a great alumni,
great fan base,
situation,
unbelievable.
I went to a game in College
Station,
amazing,
and we didn't even get to go inside. We just tailgated. We didn't have tickets, but we had like an invite to go to this fun tailgate, and so we did that. And I mean, it felt like we were inside. You could hear the crowd like loud and clear from way outside, and it was it was amazing. I'd love to go to the game there.
And the chants that they have are ridiculous. Like they're just, it's one of the most fun fan bases ever. It's just ridiculous.
So it's probably safe to say that their move to the SEC worked out pretty well for them then? I mean, I know they haven't won a conference championship, but look at the money they're bringing in.
I mean, I think they were bringing in similar money before this. I mean, I'm not saying
I bet it
helped.
Yeah.
I bet it helped. But I know that they've always been in direct competition with they do their expansions to their seating so they can have, a dozen more seats than UT does. Like that's kind of like always the thing is like they just will sell more tickets
right now, I think
because
Texas
they'll do it.
is redoing theirs to add seats, so I'm sure A&M will be right. They've already made
very
their plan.
soon, I'm sure.
I don't know why A&M just doesn't do SRO because all their students stand the whole time. That's a deal at A&M. You don't sit down.
Right.
So they could get more people in there if they just SRO.
Yeah.
Too bad as and people may catch this, but if only as my man Jay Billis would say on Twitter, if only there was enough money to pay the players. If only.
I will say one thing though with that top school, that's probably the only school where the jersey that they sell, their top selling jersey is not a former player. Their top selling jersey is an inside joke for the fans. It's the 12. It's the 12th man.
Well, it's not an inside joke. Right. It's like a tradition.
Well, yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is they're not directly profiting off of Tebow's back as much as Florida would or something like that. It's
Jimbo actually is letting number 12 not just be a special teams guy, it's their fullback, and they use him quite a bit. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so they're not like if the Razorbacks were selling 5 jerseys or Florida selling 15 jerseys.
Right. Because those are the ones that really irk me when we talk about paying the players and like their most popular jersey is like actually one of their players.
Or you're clearly buying that
you're
buying that Texas 10 jersey after 06 Rose Bowl because of Vince Young. It's kind of like I was a fan of Vince Young, and I had a picture of Vince Young hanging up Texas, and I don't like Texas. I just liked him, and I bet a lot of people did the same thing.
He didn't mean
Texas
it, Grandma.
Is clearly, yeah. I don't mind Texas at all. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I definitely would not have guessed that A&M would be. You could not.
Cool
You wouldn't have surprised me if you would have said they were up there in the top. Just because it's Texas and football and SEC. But number one, that blows
Well,
my
and
mind.
I thought Notre Dame should have been. I'm
That's a great
surprised
guess,
they weren't there. I thought that was a great guess. And I thought either USC or even UCLA, perhaps.
Yeah, UCLA is one I
been,
thought about too. But
I thought about UCLA probably came to mind for me, and I was just totally shocked about A&M. But A&M obviously is an excellent. Had never been a big fan of the Texas football A&M Aggies, what have you. But the college is a good college.
Yeah, very good.
And the standing joke is, what do you call a Texas A&M alum?
What?
Boss. So that's what you call them. So
there's some money
Call
in
him sir or
those
madam.
alums.
there's some money in it.
That's really cool. I'm also, now you've got me curious of like, maybe next week we should try to come in with like the most wealthy athletic programs, because that might put UCLA like way up there, something like that. So
I'm
that
would be interesting. I know when you've looked at like most national titles for a program, generally University of Arkansas is high on the list because of cross country. And was it John McDonald? Was his name? I think he retired sometime back, but he was an amazing cross country track guy.
Oh, world class track team for.
So that I'll jot that down. We'll maybe have some fun facts. For next
fun facts
week.
all the time. That's why you come to this show.
That's right.
Pops, do you remember last time we all got together? I recall LJ saying something along the lines of he would rather have his team get blown out than have a close game and lose at the last second. Do you remember that?
I think I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Well, he got his wish because I think Isaiah Crowell may still be running for the Jets. We're recording this Sunday afternoon, and it's the Sunday afternoon where Isaiah Crowell broke the Jets franchise record going for 219 yards as the Jets demolished the Broncos.
And I think he did that on 15 rushes.
Yeah, he averaged 15 yards per carry. Just
I
about.
there. I couldn't really watch the game. I was working a show. But when I was watching, I saw
Lucky for
that.
you.
Yeah. I saw
no doubt.
that potentially muffed punt that ended up not getting called a muffed punt. And so then that meant that the Jets were going to get it on their 15. And I was thinking, well, might as well put it in their damn red zone because, Crowell's going to eat up those 85 yards in a second.
And when Crowell wasn't running for 80 yards a touch, they were throwing it deep over the top to Robbie Anderson. I was watching Red Zone Channel, and it felt like I was watching the Broncos Jets game because every 5 minutes, Ceciliano was like, "Hey, let me take you over to the Meadowlands."
Okay, so I will
where
say
Robbie
I still stand
Anderson's
by.
still running.
I stand by my statement, but there is a caveat that when it's a record-breaking blowout, that's not fun to watch. I mean, it's not fun to watch anyway, but that's harder than a close game. So,
quick shout out. I know we'll probably get into this more, after Monday night's game and we do our later in the week pod. But Mr. Mahomes apparently fared pretty well against that vaunted Jacksonville defense.
Well, he did actually. He didn't throw any touchdowns and had 2 interceptions. He did run for one.
Ran one in for sure.
The offense did look fine. They didn't struggle at all. What really stood out to me in that game was the Achilles heel of the Jaguars, and it will be when it counts, is Bortles. Is Bortles. Yeah. I mean, and I know they didn't have Leonard Fournette, and they didn't have all their guys, but Bortles threw 4 picks. One of them, they were like on the 5-yard line, and he threw one that just hit off his own lineman's helmet, directly off the back of his offensive lineman's helmet, and they picked it off. I mean, then he threw another one that went straight to a defensive tackle for the Chiefs that they ran in for a touchdown.
Goodness gracious.
He has his moments where you think, oh, he could be okay, but at the end of the day, I just think he's going to be Blake Bortles.
Yeah, they need to do something different.
But I did. So Hue Jackson tried his hardest. I don't know if y'all got to catch any of the Browns Ravens. He tried as hard as he could to lose that game. Then went to overtime yet again and almost tied. But they kicked a game-winning field goal and with 2 seconds left. And I don't know exactly. There's video proof of this, but I don't know what he's doing for sure. But the kick goes through with 2 seconds left in overtime. And Hue Jackson, the camera pans to him, and he's holding up 2 fingers, looking like he's mouthing the words, there's still 2 seconds. I don't know if he's unaware of how overtime works, but the game's over after that field goal goes through.
Maybe he was wanting to go for 2.
Yeah,
maybe he was saying we're going to go for 2.
We're
going for 2.
No matter what he's trying to signal there, he's Hue Jackson. I don't understand.
He's looking at the shot clock in case it's an air ball, is what he's doing.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you can fire a kicker after a game-winning field goal, but the Browns kicker,
that one.
that one was bad. He kicked it. It went it was like a 30-yarder, and it went like sideways. It looked like a duck was shot. I mean, it looked like it hit a bird midway through and almost didn't make it.
I'm going to go ahead and call it now. That was the ugliest game-winning field goal I've ever seen in my life. It's the award winner.
I knew it went through, and I saw the refs put their hands up, but I still was like, I don't know about that. I need to see replay proof.
So they put that line on there where the team needs to get to have a chance at the field goal. It's like, I mean, I know I'm exaggerating a little. It's like the 11-yard line for this guy. I mean, it was like
they need to get to the
11-yard line for this guy to be in his range.
Well, so they fired their other kicker because obviously after week 1 and 2, he had a rough week 1 and 2 and missed like a game-winning extra point. So I mean, he had a rough couple games. But they hired this kid, Greg Joseph, out of Florida Atlantic. He kicked 69% at Florida Atlantic. He wasn't even above 70% there. And then he comes in, he went 2 for 3 today, 0 for 1 on extra points, and barely made the game-winning field goal.
By the way,
the Browns are just going to Browns. We said that before, but
I've been toying with this fantasy idea, and I think it'd be really interesting this year is 20-point loss for every missed extra point. So then you just go most weeks without a kicker unless you have a really dependable Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker. You got to have Justin Tucker. He becomes
but this week he missed an extra point, or no, he missed a field goal. He
got blocked. He got blocked. He didn't miss it. He got blocked.
He got blocked.
I know it's not his fault. Yeah, for sure. But
speaking of, it was a rough week for kickers. Speaking of kickers,
speaking of liquored up kickers, did you see Mason Crosby?
That's who I was going to bring up.
Who's a legitimate kicker? And I mean, at the end of the game, I saw Aaron Rodgers kind of hugging up on him a little bit. I'd have been dotting his eye. I mean, he missed, I think, 3 field goals and an extra point.
The Packers lost by 8. They lost 23-31. Rodgers had, as Dad mentioned, 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Mason Crosby.
He did his part.
Mason Crosby went 1 for 5 on field goals, 0 for 1 on extra points. They quit kicking extra points because he wasn't making his field goals. They just all right, we're not even gonna kick extra point. They went for 2 times in a row, and then the third touchdown, all right, let's kick a field goal to make it 24-31, and he missed the extra point.
I mean, did the NFL install rollers under the stadium and they just push it to the side as soon as the ball's kicked or something this year? Because it's ridiculous how many misses we've got.
And then speaking of the Vikings, I think they ended up getting the win over the Eagles, but Dan Bailey missed 2 field goals in that, and I think maybe an extra point. It was just it was a tough week to be a kicker. I don't know what happened.
It's a tough year.
And they moved the extra points back because kickers were just too good. They were getting too good, and now all of a sudden they can't kick anything. I love that now an extra point isn't just a total gimme though. It's not a gimme.
I agree.
It's not a gimme.
It should be I don't. If I'm a head coach or a GM, I'm pulling my hair out. We can't kick a 35-yard field goal straight down the middle every single time. But the fact that I can't just get up, I might have to stay and see, can the Browns kicker actually make this extra point?
I mean, if there was ever a time to go Pulaski Academy and just go for 2 every single time, now's the time.
Well, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have thought about it.
I know they didn't go hard enough with it.
Well, you know who should be thinking about it is Mike McCarthy. The Green Bay Packers. So you should be thinking about it. Damn.
And then I guess we can move on from this quick. The Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers played, and they that was kind of the loser leave town kind of game. Whichever team loses kind of is really going to look tough to make the playoffs. And the Steelers win. Roethlisberger threw for 3 touchdowns and 250 yards. Are you moving it all, El? Or are you still?
Well, did you hear that, El? I mean, Roethlisberger.
I got to check the tape because stats don't mean anything when it comes to Roethlisberger. He's got the talent around him.
Because
did you see in the first half, I know that Connor had like 72 yards and a touchdown or something like that. Like it's a different ball game when you've got. Oh, and by the way, I did want to say that I wish I would have brought this up before because you guys keep saying, well, Connor's no Le'Veon Bell, and he's not because nobody is. But I do want to note that Connor, as of before this week, he was the second most elusive running back in the NFL, or like the most missed tackles. And he only gets 10 carries a game because they just put the entire game on Roethlisberger's arm. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, that's a clear point. Yeah. So like the first week he was good when they played the Browns and they were in the game or tied or leading most of the time. But then the next 2 weeks they gave up like 40 points in both games. So your running game quickly evaporates. I don't care who you have. You quit running the ball.
But when you can start the game running, then I'll have to check it. Roethlisberger might be turning me this week. I don't think so. But maybe. But I do think it helps a lot to have a running game in the first half. That changes everything. So
it does. I want to go a little bit on to, I don't know, did either of you get any time? Y'all might have seen some of the clips and highlights, but did y'all watch any of the UFC stuff from last night?
I watched the ending of the fight highlight was all, the brawl.
Yeah, I watched some of the highlights. So, right. I saw the cheap shot to McGregor. That guy did get in there and get a couple of shots to the back of the head.
Well, and I think...
From the crowd?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was, I can't remember who the guy was, but somebody affiliated with Habib's camp or something.
Yeah, so, honestly, I don't know exactly how to say. I've heard Dana White say his name two different ways. I think it's Habib. The K is silent, but I've heard Khabib and Habib.
The dumbest commissioner in sports doesn't know how to pronounce his people's names?
Well,
and that's including Goodell?
I was intrigued to get LJ's. As soon as I saw this, I was intrigued to get LJ's thought on this because, in general, the night last night. So I watched the whole thing, and besides like the first fight or something, but I watched a lot of the fights. And Derek Lewis was it was like the heavyweight. It was a big black man going up against this kind of long Russian guy, and they were fighting.
Is he the one that took his pants off?
Yes. Well,
okay. All right. Okay.
Show notes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump ahead.
I was gonna play the sound clip of just his whole post fight press conference with Joe Rogan, but we not that we censor ourselves, but he just gets a little loose lipped, and we'll put the show notes in there and you can watch it. But yeah, his first question, as soon as the fight ends, he knocks this guy out. I mean, knocks him smooth out in the fourth round. And Joe Rogan's first question was like, "Hey, Derek, can I ask you why you took your pants off?" And he answers, "My balls was hot." And that was it. And Joe Rogan, like a professional, was just like, "All right, I understand." And then he just goes,
and it got better from there. So yeah, please go. Listeners, go to the website and check this out. It's worth it.
He gets asked about the knockout, and he says Donald Trump told him to knock that Russian MFer out and stuff. It just you just got to listen to it. It's great. We'll put it in the show notes. But then, so that one was entertaining. Then there was the fight between Tony Ferguson and Austin Pettis, and that one was really interesting. And I think it went 3 rounds. These guys, I've never heard of the saying, Dad. You may have because you've watched more boxing and stuff, but they kept saying these guys are fighting in a phone booth. And
absolutely.
It was that 100%. These guys like stayed right here in front of each other. They were just hitting each other in the face. There was blood. I mean, it was violent, but I mean,
trading shots.
Oh yeah. And you saw, so at the end of like the 3rd round, I actually really liked it, but the trainer calls the fight. He asked Pettis, he's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And he says, "My hand's broken." And you can tell he won't do anything with his hand. And they just spent a whole round just punching each other in the face over and over again. And the trainer's like, "Well, can you fight?" And he wouldn't answer because, of course, as a fighter, he doesn't want to quit. And the trainer's like, "I'm not letting you go out there if you're not going to use that hand and fight." And he still didn't answer, and the trainer just calls it. And some of the crowd started booing. And I thought it was like, I was really proud of the trainer because if he let that guy wasn't going to quit. And if he would have let that guy go out, Ferguson was just going to dot him up and, dominate and knock him out. And then he was going to probably get CTE or something. So I was really impressed with that.
Can I say that reminds me? Do y'all remember who Arturo Gotti? Do y'all remember Arturo Gotti?
Because of
And oh
He's
my God, he had
fighter
3
in boxing, right?
He was the ultimate war. I don't know if maybe the Ultimate Warrior. They had a nickname for him, but there was no quit in Arturo Gotti, and he had 3 epic battles with Mickey Ward. Mm-hmm. But there was a fight, and I don't think it was Mickey Ward, where he broke his left or right hand. I mean, you heard between rounds. It was on HBO. Which, side note, HBO's given up boxing after 45 years. That's worth talking about at some point.
Yeah.
But at any rate, Gotti broke his left hand. I don't think it was his power hand, but his other hand. And he still, I mean, it was obvious he did it. The trainer, do you want me to stop the fight? Gotti was no. He goes, I just won't use it. I won't use it. He still got in there and threw the broken hand. I mean, threw punches, not many, but with the broken hand. I mean, this guy, and Arturo Gotti is no longer with us. I mean, I don't know. I loved him as a fighter, but something upstairs, I mean, if you got a broken hand and you're still punching a brick wall,
Yeah.
something's not right. But God, his fights were awesome. But real quick, that leads me back to why I don't watch a lot of that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what these guys' hearts are letting them do to their bodies, their metaphorical hearts. It's just, it's sometimes tough to watch. But Arturo Gotti was like that. It reminds me what an amazing fighter he was. So
And so those fights were great. And then the main card comes, and it's McGregor versus Habib. And everyone wanted to see it. And really, Habib just dominated the fight. Everyone wanted to see it because of all the buildup, McGregor throwing stuff at their bus and all this crap.
Oh,
and
was that the guy McGregor threw crap at the bus?
Yes.
Oh, I
this
did
is
not.
why I'm so
Okay.
pissed.
So this is why I want to tee up LJ in a second. So
All right.
they fight for like 3 rounds. I think in the 4th, Habib finally, and Habib he's perfect. He like wrestles him and gets him in a couple of things and takes out a lot of energy from McGregor. And then in the 3rd round, just starts striking with McGregor, playing his game, just standing up and let's see what you can do. And McGregor still can't beat him. And I just want to say, I don't know why the heck you would ever fight. Apparently, this kid, Habib, trained when he was 12 years old. His dad used to make him wrestle bears.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
I'm not getting put in the octagon with anyone who wrestles bears for training. That's just not something I do.
Yeah.
But he makes McGregor, he chokes him out in the 4th. He has him in a lock, and McGregor has to tap. And then after he gets up, I think he has some choice words for McGregor. It depends who's you're a fan of. I've heard arguments both ways. Some people say he choked out McGregor longer after McGregor tried to tap out, whatever. But as he's walking off, he starts trading words with somebody in the stands. It turns out to be a fighter that trains with McGregor. And they're kind of holding him back. And then all of a sudden, Habib just loses it, and he just jumps over.
Come here, buddy. Sorry. Sorry, buddy. Buddy sees somebody outside. Sorry, y'all.
We just go with it. Featuring Buddy.
Buddy Luthringer. He's hungry.
So Habib sees this guy, and they're mouthing, and Habib just jumps over the fence, jumps over the octagon, and just starts wailing on, starts a brawl. And then guys jump in the octagon over McGregor, some of Habib's camp, and a couple of guys take a cheap shot on McGregor, it looks like. It just was total madness. And after the fight, Dana White kept saying how this is a total black mark on the league, on UFC.
Did.
This is not what we want. But this is where I want LJ to go. It's kind of like he was asking for this, right? Tell me what you got.
Oh, this is completely his fault. And one thing I'll tell you is if he can convince McGregor's dumbass to take the money and fight this again, this will be the promo. This is exactly what the USC wants. And so, what's going to happen if you have somebody that flew from Ireland to New York on a whim to throw a hand truck through the window of the bus that you're in? You finish that fight, you're not just going to cool down because, it's just my job. I'm just like a boxer who boxes. This is actual blood sport at this point. And, and Dana White just keeps encouraging it. And it's just, I don't know. It really frustrates me that we're pitting people that have committed crimes against each other in a gladiator sport against each other. It doesn't seem like
where
a
do you
fair
draw
way
the
to
line?
expect humanity to work out.
Where do you draw the line between, you saw the McGregor Mayweather? They said a lot of bad things about each other, and this happens. This is part of hyping a fight, and this is what McGregor gets paid to do. Is he's so good at hyping the fights? But then you see with McGregor and Mayweather, they hug it out afterward because they both know they're making a big check. I get what you're saying, I do, but part of boxing is this hyping up the fight. It's this, they don't shake hands, they don't touch gloves or something. There's bad blood.
Hey, you're right to a degree, but if you really think this is a disgrace against the sport, then don't let that person play your sport. It's like he keeps saying this, but it's empty because it keeps adding up to the next thing because he escalates it. Dana White purposely escalates it because he wants more money and then pretends like it's a bad thing for the sport. I mean, if he just accepted it and said oh, this is going to be so good for the number 2 fight if I can get him to do it, then I'd have a little bit more respect for him. But truthfully, he's asking for this to happen and then pretending like it's a bad thing. I mean, it's just,
that's who I'm the most annoyed with. I'm with you. I'm not even I'm really disappointed in Habib just because, and I don't follow this sport that heavily at all. I really don't at all. And it was just, I thought after all this smack that McGregor's talked, Habib just went in there and dominated him. I mean, he just put on a clinic, beat him at his game, and then made him tap out, made him quit. And then to go do that, you put a stain on your own. That's what I hated from him. But I get a little bit of it because he talked after the fight. He's like, I just want people that we got to quit. He said, I don't have his exact word for word, but he was just saying that the problem is we need to quit talking about family and talking about my father and my religion and my people and my country. And I agree. There's not room for that. If McGregor wants to say, I'm going to whoop his ass in the ring, that's all part of the game. That's part of it. But you get, like you're saying, Ellie, you get outside of the ring when now you're throwing shit at my bus and you're hurting people.
Well, and
you're talking about religion.
Taking
and
a
family.
plane from Ireland to New York on a whim. Like, that's not just like someone who, that's not the actions of a sane person. And so, anything that happens after that, you can't blame these adrenaline junkie people that use violence to solve their problems in the ring to then turn that off as soon as the match is over. When you create an animosity so great for the sake of promo, then that's your fault as an organization for creating this. And so stop pretending like it's such a bad thing because you did it.
Well, and let me add this. So y'all saw my reaction when you said, "Oh, I said this is the guy he threw at the bus." You know. So I might have tried to watch it had I realized. I didn't realize somewhere in the hype machine. I don't know what the
pay-per-view is going to make, but it went nuts. I mean, this was the biggest night of UFC history.
Well, and so now what they've done, I mean, I almost wonder if they go in there and hug it out afterwards and go, "Oh, we've made so much money for the rematch," because people are going to be interested now in the rematch. Do you remember Joe Frazier? Y'all don't, obviously. Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, the Thrill of Manila, and he was hammering the ape. I mean, Muhammad Ali is an African American, and he's talking about beating the ape, Joe Frazier. I mean, is that black on black racism? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I can't define it. I'm a white guy. I don't know what the hell it is. But
anyway,
but anyway, it made people want to freaking watch. And so is this just you're the expert on this, Kevin? We didn't walk on the moon, It's so it's all a damn hype machine.
Well, so that's where I think LJ's right. I don't really defend either McGregor or Khabib. I think Khabib's totally in the wrong. The person I really hate is that guy that jumped over the ring and took a cheap shot on McGregor in the back.
Yeah,
that's just
not
ridiculous.
Acceptable. I mean,
take a cheap shot in the back of the head is bullshit. That's right. If you want to fight me, stand up in front of me and fight me and whip my ass or whatever.
After he had just lost a fight too.
He just did 4 rounds of grueling, he's exhausted, and you're going to jump in there fresh and swing at the back of him. That dude, we've talked about it before. That is the worst. He is the worst dude. That's just ridiculous. But and then Khabib, talk about it. We already said he's crazy because he trained wrestling bears. The man, like McGregor, he just fought 4 rounds and is probably exhausted, and he's willing to jump out and go fight another fighter who's fresh. Yeah. That dude's, there's something wrong up here.
Well, but McGregor got his ass whooped, right, and was trying to jump over the ring and fight again. I mean, it's like, well, where was that energy a little while ago?
Well, he couldn't breathe because he was getting choked out.
Right, he was getting choked. Yeah. You're right, he was getting choked.
But he's not. They should not be a number 2 unless McGregor has more money than smarts coming from it, because he is not going to win another fight against this guy ever. That's just not going to happen.
And that's where LJ's point, and I agree with, is the person I'm mad at is Dana White. This is what you've built up for. This is what I know he'd never want. He probably in his heart of hearts and honestly did not want this to happen. And this is not what he wanted to see. But you're playing with fire. He's not upset about it. Every now and then, if you keep playing with fire, you're going to get a little burn here and there. And he keeps doing it. He's going to keep going back to it. And he's going to keep building up, because this rematch, if it happens, will be insane. It will be
well, and I think you said it, LJ. I remember watching an interview with one of the MMA fighters, and it was like Ed Wallace from 60 Minutes or somebody interviewing, and it was scary. I mean, you just think, if a guy's going to get in a ring with almost bare knuckles, I mean, that's essentially what they're doing in a cage, and they're willing to beat the shit out of another guy and take a punch from a guy. They're not stable. I mean, they could go off at any time. You can't expect these adrenaline junkies. I think you used the word. I mean, how much testosterone was in that room? My God.
And just in the ring, not even, and there's other fighters around there watching. Yeah.
You just can't even expect these guys to use the same diplomacy that we should use as human beings. They're trained to be killers, to hurt people.
They're trained to knock them out, fight them until they either quit or you knock them out.
Well, and even in boxing, like I said, and even if you got a broken hand, use that damn broken limb to hit somebody with. It's just it's a blood sport, and we cannot deny all through history people have loved some portion of that, and it is what it is. I don't know if that's good, bad. It probably isn't.
Well, but
good,
I mean, if you're going to profit off of this, try to protect, it's the same thing we say about CTE and football is like, I don't want to, I like the game the way that it is, but I also, if you're going to profit off of these people putting themselves in early graves, do your best to look out for them. And that's a clear disregard for their safety by putting these two in a ring with that sort of hype leading up to this. I mean, I think it's a terrible move on UFC's part.
Well, and I do want to give Dana White a little bit of credit. After they got everybody in the ring,
money,
and they kind of calmed it down. And Habib was sitting there going, "Where's my belt? I want my belt. I want my belt." And Dana White was like, "Look, I'm not putting your belt on you, because as soon as I put that belt on you, all the people who are crazy McGregor fans here that are drunk, pissed off, are going to start throwing stuff. It might start another fight and all this stuff." And Habib was like, "I don't care if they throw something at me." And Dana White specifically was like, you could hear it on the mic'd up thing. He was just like, "Yeah, but not all the other 20,000 people here don't want to get showered with beer. So we're not putting your belt on you. It's just not happening." So that was a good move by him. But the only reason he's cleaning up this mess is because he made it. So I don't want to give him too much credit.
I guarantee you Dana White cashed a pretty big check at the bank.
Yeah.
So
when all's said and done, he was pissed off last night, but
there.
he'll be good when his bank account shows that
his
direct
bank account's
deposit.
in good shape.
Dad, I had a question about. I was watching that fight, and I was watching the people in the crowd and everything. And I don't know if you. I've never been. I don't know for a fact if you have or not. But if you've gone to like a big boxing fight or big fight, an event in like Vegas or something, it doesn't seem like there's much appeal to me to that, unless you're right there on the ring. Which we will have never had the money to get that. Then I don't see why you would do it.
So I've thought about it, and my buddy Bob Hubbard, has talked about going to Vegas to see a really big boxing match. And I mean, I would want to be close enough where sweat and blood potentially gets on me. I mean, that sounds gross, but I want to be that close to the action. And that probably, though, and I don't want to sound like I'm soft here, but was in the old days. I don't know now, because I know what it's done to those guys. 100%. I know what's happening to those guys in old age. And I'm telling you, I'm nothing like HBO's dropping boxing that they've carried for 45 years. The biggest fights were on HBO. I can remember me and my dad getting together and watching Saturday night fights on HBO. It was always the biggest bout. You and I, LJ. Yeah. And even after y'all were had moved out, I'd go over sometimes and watch a big fight with my dad over in Ashdown, Yeah. And Diego Corrales, that fight he had, I've mentioned it before, Marco Antonio Barrera, what an amazing fight. But now I have a hard time watching it because I just know what it's doing to these people. And it's almost a beautiful, the sweet science they call it. It's a beautiful thing, but I guess I've moved past it a little bit, like we have Jacked Up on NFL. Yeah. Now it's come on, man, or whatever, the Moss catch.
You got mossed.
And you got mossed or whatever, which is not as cool as Jacked Up. I'm sorry, that was an all time. But we've got to, I don't want to go back to gladiator days. And I mean, that's what boxing is. That's what MMA is. That's what Jacked Up is. And hopefully we're getting more civilized than that. We want to see people not lose their brain function for my pleasure.
Right.
And so I'm not into it like I was. And HBO dropping boxing is a huge deal to me. I thought I might think about that and write, because that was something that was a complete part of my childhood growing up with my dad. We would watch the big fights on HBO. Yeah. And they're dropping boxing. So we're changing as a society. We are. And it's scary. And I don't know if scary is the word, but it's just, I'm nostalgic about losing some of that. Yeah. But I think we're moving to a better place, and we need to. So that's how I feel.
I'm with you. And 100%.
Yeah. It's the main thing I've noticed when I watching that fight, and then we've already transitioned this way in NFL. I'll still go to a big game, but the only reason you're going to that event and paying that money, I feel like, is not for the viewing pleasure. It's for the atmosphere of being there. It's like we talked about going to a college game. It's better to watch that A&M Arkansas game here at home, but if you can go see it in Fayetteville or in College Station with that atmosphere, there's something to be
Yeah.
said. But for boxing wise, I don't think I'd ever pay the money to go watch a big UFC.
No, I want to
boxing.
go to an athletic event that shows me athleticism and skill and integrity. Boxing or MMA, I mean, be honest. You're going to see somebody almost get knocked out and come back from it and knock the other guy out. That's what you want to see.
That's the goal. Yeah, that'd be the best fight.
And there is no way you do that without damaging yourself on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
And so we need to move as a society to enjoying athleticism, integrity, one-handed catches, Odell Beckham one-handed catches, which we've seen a lot more of those now. You know, that's and those are, hey, I can get into that.
That's something that I've been, you know, with football, I'm so against this quarterback rule change, like in theory. But the more I think about it, the more I think like, well, this is kind of the league that I want. I mean, I want to see defense, I want to see running backs, but I also want to see safety. And so, you know, the feats of great jumping instead of the feats of great strength might be more what I really need to enjoy if I'm gonna keep watching football and feel good about it. So
I think that sometimes what the NFL is, their thought process, like, you wanted player safety. Well, here you go. Here's what you asked for.
Yeah, and now you're bitching. LJ,
here's what it looks like. Yeah.
I mean, I will say the other thing is it doesn't feel like a fair game to me anymore. I mean, both teams have the same opportunity, but like both sides of the ball don't have the same opportunity. And so that sucks. But I mean, that might just be the way that it works with player safety. I mean, that's defense gets neutered to make sure the players don't die out there. So I don't know. I think I've got a new job opportunity for us, a new way to make some money. And I think
like
that is we need to
I love the way it sounds.
We need to start giving out the JPP award to just anybody that'll pay us for it, because I think that's what JD Power does, is like, if you pay them enough money, I mean, because what car company doesn't have 17 JPP Power, JPP Power Awards?
Yeah, we wish.
17 JD Power Awards to boast for their mid-size sedans. Like every commercial is about JP.
You can't
JD
even talk
Power
now.
Award that somebody's got. I know, because I want this award so badly to be
Getting all excited.
It's money making. I'm sure they pull millions. What do you guys think?
Well,
is that baloney?
So I don't even know what the JD Power trade is. I just know, like, I see the commercial.
Oh God, it's like most dependable sedan.
Yeah, but every single commercial, every single brand has like awards that they tell me
has
about.
a JD Power.
And the other thing is,
they're all
like, we
5
as consumers are supposed to care. Yeah, they're like these are real customers, like those Toyota ads or whatever.
No,
and they're like, guess how many JD Power awards we have? And then the customer's like, 6. What?
No, have you ever thought about this? So like, what the hell happens? Do they get, like, they say these are not paid actors, these are real customers. So what do? Do they like kidnap 5 people, take them to a warehouse, and all of a sudden pop these cards out, and they're like, take the blindfold off of them. They're like, how many JD Power awards do you think this truck has? Like, 7. We'll go with 7.
Well, and there's that one where they like, to get a little off subject, there's that one where like some woman is like looking at a sedan or whatever, and then in the sedan is like her entire extended family. So it's like, hey, I know you're not an actor, but we want you to be in this commercial where so like, please list your entire family and their address so we can try to contact them and get them in a car and then surprise you with them. Are you okay with this? Does this sound like a good idea for you? Not real actors, my ass.
But I'm totally with you. Like, it seems like every car company has like the 5-time consecutive JD Power Associate Award winner, and it's like,
and they've all got the most of something. Like, we've got the most compact car in a row JD Power Awards, and it's like, oh yeah, well, we've got the most compact car gas mileage JD Power Awards. It's like, okay, fine, we just make up any category specific enough. So I think that's the thing, is if you pay JPP $30 and come up with your own specific title, we'll give it to you. We'll give you a seal and everything.
Well, so let's workshop this. Who JD clearly goes towards cars. What's our brand? Like, are we going towards like podcast or like shows or movies? Like, this director's
so, like,
a 5-time
Malcolm Gladwell wins the JPP award of best intellectual podcast hosted by a Canadian.
Yeah,
does that work?
And it's one of the past 5 years in a row. You know. And I think you're onto something here, because I don't even know what this might just be a random ass company. It's like a guy who works out of his home. It's probably 3 guys sitting around like us going.
And I've actually, okay, so I've done a little bit of research. And so what I do know is that they're a consulting company where you pay them to try to figure out what customers think about you. And then they grant awards to people, and people that pay them get more awards than people that don't. And it's just, it's an absurd, ludicrous, and like nobody knows, like, why do we trust JPP we trust JPP. I'm sorry. Why do we trust the JD Power Award?
I'm down with JPP.
Yeah, you know me.
You know me.
You know me.
So yeah, and you're right, because you sit there and you hear that, and it does sound good when they go like, this truck is a 5-year durability award winner in the JD Power Trade. Like, oh, okay, a durable truck, and it looks good too. Like, I just trust that means something. When in all actuality, it might just be, oh yeah, we'll pay you $50,000 just to say that we win this year for this award.
Well, so we can be cheaper. We can be the JP Power Awards, and nobody will even know the difference, and we'll get it to them for half the price.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like $150 for like a major car company. Bring it on.
Yeah, what are you talking about? $250. You can have. What do you want?
You name the award that
$250.
you want.
You name the award, and $150. We'll name it for you.
That's right.
Add another $50 in.
Case of Malort, you can be what you want.
I love it. I love it. All right, so you had another topic, I think, and it was about just human beings that are. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm just gonna give it to you.
Just give it to him. I don't even know it was something.
Okay, well, okay. So you guys want to hear a gross out story or a non-gross out story?
Well, I know where Dad's probably gonna stand. I kind of want to go grossed out.
I'm good. Gross out. Bring it.
All right. So there's this guy named Terrar in France in the 1700s. Okay.
All right.
This dude got kicked out of his house when he was a teenager because he had the most insatiable appetite ever seen in the history of humanity. So he worked as a street performer after he got kicked out, where he would eat like an entire barrel of apples, or he would eat live animals and just like eat anything for donations, essentially. And so then of course, you know, he had some severe intestinal issues, so he got taken to a hospital where they tried to study him.
You think?
Yeah, he had some problems. But so this guy, so he was not a big man. He actually was like relatively normal size. Like he was a little tall and actually a little bit thin. But so he tried to serve in the military, and the rations that they gave out could not feed him. So they ended up quadrupling his rations. He was still hungry. So then they thought,
wait,
well,
so it's not only that he can eat a lot, he is actually hungry. Like he feels like he needs more.
Yeah. And so
okay.
So he had four sets of rations, and then would still go through trash cans and eat the scraps of food left by other people. And he even would sneak into like rooms and like find bags of blood and drink the blood. And so the military, the French military,
bags of
time,
what?
Blood.
You heard him.
Yeah, for the protein.
Bags of
blood. Yeah. And so the military was like, well, how can we use this? Okay. What we can probably do is see if he can, like,
drink.
We can see if he can eat a box with a note in it, and then later the note be totally readable. So they tested this, and it worked. That, like, you know, 30 hours later, they got the box out of his waist, and the note inside was readable. And so then as a reward, they gave him 30 pounds of horse lungs and livers, and he ate it in front of the officers before they could even leave the room. So, you know,
30 pounds?
30 pounds of lungs and livers. No, it happened.
Okay, yeah. Ooh, are we getting to an end?
Well, so skipping ahead.
I need to die, Jill.
Skipping ahead a little bit, he then tried to do this and then got caught, and then the Prussians almost hung him, but then they let him go for some reason, and he ended up going.
Get sponsored by like an antacid or something.
Yeah,
he gets the JPP award.
I never get heartburn.
So then he eventually ended up in the hospital because, you know, like an asylum essentially, and he would sneak into, you know, and steal people's blood and try to eat things in the gutters when he would get out and stuff like that. And eventually a 14-month-old baby disappeared from the hospital, and they immediately thought it was him. And so they kicked him out of the hospital. It's not proven one way or another, obviously, whether it was him, but, you know, he had actually been known for eating dogs and cats and eels. He would eat an eel without even chewing. So like eating live things.
When
weren't
was
necessarily,
this? Like what time?
Yeah, and
the 1780s ish.
Spell his name. How do you spell his name?
Tarrare.
Terrar.
Yeah.
Terrar. Okay.
So he also like he went to they kicked him out of the hospital after he was suspected of eating a 14-month-old, and so he eventually came back to
That is so sick. Yes.
yeah. So he eventually came back to the hospital, and the one doctor that actually like cared about him, he came up to him and said, "Hey, I ate a golden fork 2 years ago, and I think it's going to kill me." And then he did die. And so the doctor did an autopsy and found out that when you opened his jaw, you could see to his stomach. That's how wide his throat was. He could just like dump things into his stomach acid. And so, yeah, weird. And he never found the golden fork. So that's the story of Terrar.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Don't know where to go.
Usually, normally I can't shut up, and right now I don't have words. I'm speechless.
All right, well, let me do a little
what's
less
next,
gross.
LJ? Next.
A little less gross person, just to kind of clear the air a little bit, I guess.
Clean the palate.
There was this guy named Adam Rayner, okay? And let's see, I'm trying to find, he was born in 1899 in Austria. And so when World War I broke out, he was 17 years old, and he tried to enlist in the army, but they wouldn't let him in because at 17, he was 4'6". And so they classified him as a dwarf and determined he was too small and weak to be an effective soldier. So then a year later, he grew 2 inches. And then let's see, at 21 years old, when the typical age of person stops growing, people assumed he was set at his height for life, but then he just started growing more and more and more. So remember, he was 4'6".
Right.
1 decade later, he had grown to 7'1". So
at 27, he was
at 27, he was 7'1", and he continued growing until he died at the age of 51 years old. He ended up 7'8", but his spine kept growing even though his body didn't. So his spine ended up more and more curved. And it was all through a growth on his pituitary, which is sometimes called acromegaly. And so he was actually the only person to ever be classified as a dwarf and a giant within his own lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Why did the growing take so long to start?
Well, because acromegaly could be late onset. It doesn't necessarily start at birth. So it's just like a growth on your pituitary that at some point will tell your hormones to grow, or I guess your hormones, something to act different. But it doesn't necessarily happen the second that this growth starts.
So, I mean, let's just say a guy in his 50s that wanted to play in the NBA. I mean, are you saying that he could grow another 6-8 inches?
Well, in theory, I would say yes, but the other thing is this often comes with like real bad problems unless you take care of it quickly enough. And so, like knee problems and.
Well, I'll take care of it as soon as I get to about 6'8".
That might be too late. That might be too late. Some of the most
all
famous
right, Doc,
people.
I'm good. 6'5" cool.
Take the tumor. I'm done. Well, and that's kind of Big Show, the Giant from WCW.
Yeah,
and
Andre
later
the Giant?
WWE. No, not Andre the Giant, but the.
Oh,
the
you're talking about
later-
Big Show.
Well,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
actually
yeah.
both had acromegaly, and the Big Show ended up getting his growth removed so he would stop, having those problems. And he's actually lived quite an athletic life for his size. Whereas Andre the Giant, his ability to do what he did went away much earlier than it should have because he continued to grow because of his acromegaly. So those are two of the most famous.
And interestingly, there's a really good if you have like HBO Go or whatever, the documentary done on there of Andre the Giant, and he's like not to the extent of the first guy you were mentioning, but just dude ate and drank like crazy. He was just a phenomenon.
I want to say that there's a story that he drank like 112 beers in one afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the myths on him are crazy, and some of them true, some of them we don't know. But
and apparently
it's
Andre the
interesting
Giant was a great guy. I mean, he was he was a great guy. I think Bill Simmons was behind that.
Have you guys ever seen Princess Bride?
I have not.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you ought to. It's a really good movie, actually. But Andre the Giant,
where he's in it. Yeah, he's
famously in that movie.
He catches her, doesn't he?
And and he was so proud of his portrayal in that movie that he would host watch parties with other wrestlers and serve them popcorn and then ask them what they thought about his acting at the end of the showing. He was just so proud of that movie. So
I'll have to watch that. Okay.
Yeah, he seems
it's
like
a really cool documentary.
Guy,
he's like a genuinely great guy, but looked at as a freak his whole life because. I mean,
he was different.
Not in a derogatory way, but he was a freak. He was just not like a normal human being.
He was a different human, yeah.
All right. right, well then let's go ahead and finish the way. Well, real quick, like we mentioned off the top, the podcast is brought to you by MyBookie, and it's the best way to bet. You can
It's
make
the winner
your
of the
little simple.
JPP Power Award of best betting site on the internet.
Yes, it is, and it's
And
actually
maybe best
it's
website
going
with
on
the
year 2 of it.
.ag. I think it wins the award for that too.
No doubt.
So there's a lot of awards. It's critically acclaimed, is
Yeah.
what we're saying.
Yeah.
And just don't be a rookie. You got to go bet with MyBookie, and it's put in the JPP promo code, and they'll match your.
Don't be a rookie. Bet with
Did you make that up?
MyBookie. Kevin.
Did you make that up?
No, definitely did not make that up.
I was thinking you
can't
need to
take
go into
credit for it.
advertising right now.
So don't be that rookie. Go put your parlay down. Go put your parlay down on MyBookie, and if you put in when you sign up, put the promo code JPP in, and they'll match your deposit and even give you an extra $25 just to go ahead and throw it on the Cowboys playing the Texans or something. You never know. Not the Broncos. All right, let's go ahead and as we mentioned, let's get to the what we're listening to. Dad, what do you got? I can't believe this part of the podcast isn't sponsored yet. Like this
No
has
doubt.
to get
Put your name
like
here.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and we'll call you like the JPP's best streaming service. You know, you can
Right.
get some award
I
from
can
us.
Right.
I can think of a few that would be contenders to sponsor this. I'll have to get in
Yeah.
contact
Yeah,
with
we
some
might
of
need to
them.
reach out to some people.
Okay, I have.
All right, Dad, what you got?
I'm going to give you a fun one first, and then my real one. Okay.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
Tammy and I are sitting at the river. We're listening to a little bit of just, kind of dancing, grooving music, some good stuff. I mean,
Good.
All right. Have you ever heard of Adina Howard?
Yeah.
Freak Like Me. Have you
Okay.
ever heard
Yeah.
of Adina Howard, A Freak Like Me?
All right.
I'm
I
a
think
white
she's
guy.
reference-
I'm a white guy, so I can't repeat all the lyrics, okay? I'll give you that. But it's great. If you want to shake that booty, you need to put on Adina Howard, Freak Like Me, and
All right.
just check it out. It's good stuff. And I wished I could tell you the lyrics, but I cannot. All right, that's my fun one, my kind of half-ass serious one. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, if I've said this before, Storyville. Have I ever mentioned Storyville on this one?
Good choice.
Okay.
No, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Storyville, a piece of your soul. It's got Bitter Rain, A Good Day for the Blues.
That's the
It's a
song. I
good
couldn't
day.
think of what it
A
was.
Good Day for the Blues, man. Great album. It came up on my iPod the other
That's
day.
an oldie but goodie. That's
And it's
that
an
one.
oldie but goodie. Yes, very good. Very good. Storyville. And by the way, the deal was the percussion section was Stevie Ray Vaughan's drums and bass
No.
player was with Storyville. That's the rumor that I had. I've not
Nice.
double checked and triple checked that with JD
Nice.
Power, but that's what I understand.
yeah,
So
verified.
both will be on the website. Adina Howard, Freak Like Me,
All
and
right.
Storyville, A Piece of Your Soul. That's
All
what
right.
I'm listening
All right,
to.
so does that is Freak Like Me been added to the Mo Bad Jams?
Oh yeah. Oh,
It better
yeah.
be.
Oh,
It
yeah.
better be.
Oh yeah. It's on. It's on, baby.
All right, El, what you got? I haven't heard what you're listening to in a little while. What you got?
Well, so I got two answers also. One of them is so I've been doing a show, Rock of Ages, and so it's a show about 80s rock music turned into a musical. It's a pretty fun show, honestly. But so I've been listening to a lot of 80s rock music, and so I think my answer will be Boston and
Ooh.
yeah, More Than a Feeling, Foreplay, Long Time, like just good
Peace of
stuff by
Mind.
that band. And so, one thing I wanted to note about that is, so like I spent a lot of time on YouTube looking up like different 80s rock playlists to try to, just cover my bases. And there is a lot of like 80s rock playlists that feature Tracy Chapman's Fast Car, which blows my mind a little bit.
Great song, but
Yeah, not
Yeah.
80s rock in any way. And also like
Right.
a lot of Celine Dion somehow ends up on like a lot of those. Yeah, I don't understand. Like right next to, Motley Crue is Celine Dion. And I just don't
Raw.
understand what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've noticed that too when I've looked up playlists before. It's like, well, I like this song, but it doesn't deserve to be on this playlist.
The more forgivable ones are the ones where they're like really taking like 70s rock and putting it on there, like AC/DC and stuff like that. Like I get why you would put it in the same category as say Guns N' Roses, but they're totally different eras. So, you know, your mileage may vary. And then so my goofy one is I was trying to get to sleep. This is not going to be on Spotify. I was trying to get to sleep the other night and I couldn't. So I turned on YouTube and this ad came on for the Electro Harmonix Lester K stereo rotary speaker with Mike Matthews. And so this is this guy who's advertising this pedal for his piano.
I was going to write that down. You're going to have to send that to me, Al.
I'm going to put it on the show notes. Don't worry about it. But this guy invented this company where they make like piano pedals, I guess. And so he's just jamming. He's this like goofy old dude who's like, he acts like he hasn't played the piano in like 35 years and he's just having the time of his life. And they're like trying to advertise for this pedal, but really they're just advertising for this goofy old dude. I love it so much that I watched the entire 4.5 minute ad instead of watching the video that I was going to watch. So it's goofy. I don't think like everybody's going to be like, oh God, I need to like check this out. But yeah, it is like a fun way to spend 5 minutes. So, you know, whatever.
Well, now I'll have to check it out.
Check it out. Right. No doubt.
We've got a good thing going, and I'm going to quit Electro-Harmonix. I'm going back on the road. Rock and roll.
Yeah, you'll probably turn it on and be like, the hell is LJ's problem? But like,
what was LJ doing that night?
It kept me entertained.
Well,
so
nothing new with that, but anyway.
All right. So I guess we weren't here. We weren't able to record last Sunday, so I guess we're all just coming in with two what we're listening to. And mine are a little different too. So one's gonna be music, and it's just
good.
You probably don't care about this, Dad. There might be a lot of people that won't, but the sound of my childhood, at least growing up listening to rap, was the lighter flicking on a playlist.
Yep.
And Lil Wayne finally came out with Carter 5 after acting like it was and teasing us forever. And this was like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it finally came out. It's not like best album he's ever done or anything like that, but I think it was a good exclamation point or period, however you want to say, to the Carters. I think the Carter album need to end, and I think that was really good. And it kind of
it was only long, like
almost
45
like
tracks or something.
Yeah, it really was like a double disc or something. Like it had like 20 tracks, and it kind of did some like real old school Lil Wayne with some new kind of.
Yeah.
And it just shows how he's been around forever, and it was fun to listen to. Just listen to it kind of brought me back to like riding the bus to different like middle school basketball games or high school basketball games or football games. Like it was a good album, and it took forever to come out. So that's what I've been jamming a lot of lately. And then
it was sweet of him to come on to Sunday Morning Countdown and portray OBJ's kind, loving, supportive mother over there.
He did do a weird interview this morning with OBJ on
I
NFL
just like
Countdown.
I see him like holding his hand and like looking at him like, yeah, that's right, baby, that's right.
They had like a whole other segment to defend him. They did like a whole segment where they just talked about, kids these days and the culture and the social media age. And then they had another segment where basically Josina Anderson was just trying to get Odell Beckham to
all
say
that and
Eli
more
Manning sucks
this
at
week
football, and he
on
wouldn't do
Just
it.
Press
And
Play.
they just Lil Wayne just stayed for the whole thing. So it did look awkward. He was just standing there nodding his head. But my second what I've been listening to, and it's just I listened to this once, and I'm not a fan of this podcast in general. Well, I don't know, it might be great. I've never listened to it before today or yesterday, but the Joe Budden podcast had
it's good.
He I've heard a lot about it, but it's kind of like, I think it's similar to Joe Rogan where they're long, free flowing conversations. Like this one was like 2 hours long, but it was with a guy I love, Chance the Rapper, and they had him on and they just talked for like 2 hours and 30 minutes. And obviously you're going to need a lot of time if you're going on a road trip or something, but it was really interesting to listen to because it was just Chance talking about what he does in Chicago and then like his relationships in the music world between like Kanye West and Drake, and then like how he releases music, and then the whole different stuff with streaming, and then like independent artists. It was just really cool, and an in-depth kind of into a world that I have never been into. Like I listened to all the music, but it was like a behind the scenes kind of thing. And it was really cool. And it just reiterated, I love Chance the Rapper.
He's got as unique of a perspective in the hip hop world as anybody. Like the way he came up is his own. So he's really
and like it was and Joe Budden was really cool about it. He'll ask questions that, might be controversial and Chance might not want to answer. And if Chance doesn't want to, he doesn't answer it. But like, it was just cool. And it seemed like these guys are really just hanging out and shooting the shit. And I just think Chance is as good a guy. I love his music, but he just seems like an awesome dude. I'd love to sit down and hang out.
He does seem like a good guy.
I mean, y'all talked about JJ Watt being Houston's favorite son. Chance is Chicago's favorite son right now. I mean,
I get that.
Well, and that's why I want you to watch. I would like for you to listen to it just because there's one part where they talk about Chicago and stuff, and it was like stuff. It was like some of the conversations we've had with you and stuff. It was just really cool. And dude's a smart guy. He's not just someone who does like, I'm donating this money and I want it to go to the news so they can talk about how awesome Chance the Rapper is. He does so much that doesn't even get talked about.
Yeah, like just buying backpacks and shoes
cool.
for people. I mean, it's ridiculous how much he gives.
It was cool. So if you're on a long road trip or got some time, you might want to put it on like time and a half or 2 times the speed just to get through it, because it is long, but it's interesting. It's worth a listen. And then my boy Little Wayne, Carter 5.
Got him. Cool.
All right, I think that'll do it for this week. Do y'all got anything else?
No, dude.
Stick a fork in me.
All right, let's put a bow on it. We'll be back to talk. Yeah, not a golden fork, because then we'll lose it. Long story. Before I let you go, El, I wanted to. Did you see that? So for the Chargers home game against the Raiders, which ended up blowing out, I just wanted to talk some AFC West with you.
Sure.
Did you see that before they were getting ready for a home game against the Raiders in Los Angeles, and they had to, for practice, they were pumping in crowd noise because they were expecting the Raiders fans to be there full force for a home game. Poor Phillip Rivers and the Chargers don't even play home games anymore.
I don't know what the numbers were this year, but I want to say I saw last year that the fans were like 6-1 in favor of the Raiders at the home game that they played in LA. I mean, they're not LA's team; they're San Diego's team. It's such a bummer to see them there because they don't. LA doesn't like them. They don't.
Yeah, San Diego loves the Chargers, and then I understand that stadium was a dump, but you send them to Los Angeles, and they just don't even care about them. It's ridiculous. Someone made a joke. It might have been Siciliano. I don't know. Someone made the joke. It's like, real question: are there more Chargers fans at the game or Phillip Rivers kids? Because Phillip Rivers has like 9 kids or 10 kids or whatever it is.
Did you see? I think they wore the fly ass powdered blues this week.
Oh, they did.
So I always love seeing those pop out,
no true Charger fans were there to support it because they don't care about him in Los Angeles.
Those are fly. I love those powder blues. Love.
Right.
Some of the best jerseys in the game.
Yep.
All right, that'll do it for this week. We'll catch you back with some more NFL talk later this week. Peace out.
Peace. The other thing that's worth bringing up, maybe I'll stick this in there somewhere. Ian Johnson and his wife, the running back for Boise State way back when, they are still married and they have a kid, I think about 2 years old now. So
I tried to reach out. He is on Twitter. He's a co-host of a morning radio show and also sells insurance.
Interesting.
I couldn't get a hold of him yet.
Hey, offer him his insurance agency might be the JPP Power Award winner for insurances in Boise.